There was a recent anonymous article posted to efinancialcareers.com that talks about the CFA exams and mental health, and it raises 4 or 5 very relevant and very important points about how candidates and charter holders can be affected by this process and things you need to consider when getting into it. Before we jump into this one though, please be aware that I'm doing some live streaming every Thursday night for the next 3 weeks on a CFA preparation course that I've created on Lighthall. Check out the link in the description down below. Lighthall is totally free to use for you to create an account and enroll in my course. There are going to be 3 classes that I've put together to talk through all of my processes that I use to pass all 3 CFA exams. So don't forget to sign up on Lighthall and join into the live streams. Check out my courses there. The anonymous author mentions that they've taken the level 1 exam twice and failed both times. So this is a person that has likely been a candidate for 2 or 3 years and hasn't even cleared a single level yet. And there are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people who have been in that exact same boat before. They mentioned that failing that level 1 exam, those 2 separate instances, has been excruciating, namely because the CFA program has taken over their life. And I can totally sympathize with this person because I definitely know what it means to have the CFA program take over your life. Actually, I tell candidates getting into it that if you want to have a really high chance of passing all 3 exams and becoming a charter holder, you need to allow it to do just that. You cannot really manage really long hours in your job or a fruitful social life or a relationship with a significant other that takes a good chunk of time, because really all of your free time needs to get devoted to studying during the period of the year that you're on. There are very few walks of life that human beings devote themselves so much to, like the CFA exams. So to not be able to clear the first step of the 3 levels that you need to get over after having put in 2 or 3 years of work in this person's scenario would certainly be devastating. It's not like failing a driver's test or doing poorly on an SAT or something, because neither of those things become a part of you. You don't have to sacrifice everything you enjoy to pursue either of those things, and you can retake them in relatively short order. The CFA exams, on the other hand, although you can take them more often now, certainly require a bigger sacrifice. And that sacrifice is why the mental health conversation is certainly important for CFA candidates or people involved with the CFA program. The candidate in this article mentions that they've devoted over 1,000 hours to studying now, which is why I assume it's been over the course of about 3 years rather than 2 separate years of 500 hours each, and they still haven't been able to pass. Now, there can be many reasons why a candidate is unable to pass any of the 3 levels of the CFA program. This particular candidate kind of takes the approach of blaming the institute, which they might be right for, but they blame the institute because the pass rates have been historically low over the last 18 months, which is totally true. And so they say they haven't been able to clear the exams because the institute has pushed the difficulty to a level that they didn't expect when they first got into the program. And so they describe the exams as now being impossible to get through. And I totally understand that sentiment. It's crazy how low the pass rates have gotten recently. The next section of the article is where the author describes how the stress and anxiety of failing this exam a couple times has really started to build in their life and created other health issues on top of this. The author's boss is not happy with them that they've failed the exam 2 times, and because of it, the author feels like his or her career is sort of on the line now. And I cannot imagine the amount of stress that could come from worrying about if you're going to have a job in the coming months, at least in your current position, especially on top of the defeat of failing 2 CFA exams. This obviously is not a healthy place for someone's mental state to be in. Their boss or their employer has the expectation that they will study again, but this person feels like they have no idea on what they can expect the hurdle to be that they have to clear, because the minimum passing scores have been fluctuating so wildly. The pass rates have been fluctuating recently. And that is an important point here with this mental health conversation. I'm not going to put the blame on the CFA Institute for having these inconsistent pass rates recently, but the CFA program is a massive undertaking. There's always going to be mental health issues that come with something like that. But the Institute isn't making it any easier on candidates to stay stable through this whole thing with the amount of uncertainty that's coming with the pass rates. So it's definitely becoming a more and more difficult thing, not just statistically to pass, but to deal with. The author says they don't want to deal with an exam again. They've gained weight, they've lost their social life. Both of those things, by the way, I think are sort of inevitable. I've had people ask me, hey, AJ, what are your tips to staying healthy, staying fit, and losing weight while studying for the CFA exams. And I say, well, hey, you can lose weight, and that is just by not eating very much while you're studying for the CFA exams. But I don't recommend anyone really spend too much time exercising other than maybe 15, 20 minutes on a treadmill if you want, because you really need to devote every 30-minute block of extra time you have when you're not working or doing other things to studying. So I don't think there's this good balanced approach towards exercise, work, and social life and studying for the exams. I think you just need to go for it all in, and this person sounds like they've certainly done that, but their health has suffered. The worst part of the article is mentioned here, where they say that the depression from the failing of the exams and the weight they've gained and the hopelessness of the future prospects of taking another exam has caused them to become suicidal. If anyone has ever felt that way, I know have had friends and family who have been in that scenario. There are definitely people out there who care for you and want to help you. Things are going to get better if you can make it through this difficult period of time. And so I hope the author can either find some resources or connect with some people that can make this period easier, because obviously no one in the universe would ever want someone to consider ending their life, or especially take that step over an academic program that over the course of their entire career may not even actually ever end up having all that much bearing on what happens to them. So definitely, if you've ever been in that scenario, consider taking a break or just quitting the program altogether. It's not worth that amount of stress or depression or other mental health issues. And if your employer is putting it on you that heavily, you need to have this conversation with them, explain to them where you're at. If they can't see your side of things and they can't take your health into priority, then you certainly need to consider new employers. And I'm really sad to say that at the bottom of the article, the author kind of gives a call to help and says, hey, has anyone else been in this scenario or felt this way? And the top comments are really rude and borderline evil, in my opinion. Someone said something like, oh wow, how are you not passing after having studied this many hours? I studied for less hours and passed. What a brain dead type of comment to make to someone who's struggling in a situation like this. I would also sort of feel for the person who made that extremely rude, borderline evil comment, just because their psychology has to be a little bit messed up. They have to be suffering somewhere to try to beat up on someone who they already know is suffering. So that's just a whole nother dynamic. Another top comment though said that, well, CFA charter holders are always entitled. I'm always careful when I'm hiring a CFA charter holder. And that comment to me sort of sounds like they're implying, hey, it's better that you don't get this thing. Again, doesn't make a lot of sense, because the author mentioned several times that their employer really wants them to get this thing, otherwise their job is on the line. Just not relevant to the conversation, not helpful. Now, there were some good, uplifting, or positive comments to the article as well. If you are struggling as a charter holder, make sure that you seek advice from people with stable mentals of their own, or people that can actually listen to your scenario and offer you something rather than just hate on you, like some of the idiots in the comment section on this one. I'm sorry that the author had to deal with a little bit of that here. Hopefully it doesn't create any more additional problems for them, because obviously they're already struggling here. To anyone who's been in a scenario like that, especially with the CFA exams, because that's what this YouTube channel is primarily about, there's definitely a light at the end of the tunnel. Even if it's not passing all 3 exams and becoming a charter holder, maybe it's a different career, different direction. I mean, I don't want to say that lightly, because of course this person was devoted to taking the exams, and I really admire that. I think trying to pursue the CFA charter is one of the most admirable and prestigious things someone can do. But the point is that it's not worth the amount of depression that it sounds like that they're dealing with, and there are people out there that care for you and can help you, but it's really difficult. I don't have a great recommendation to candidates who I sort of tell to sacrifice their social relationships, sacrifice their physical health, sometimes their mental health, hopefully not to the point of depression and anxiety, but you have to just make these huge sacrifices to pursue a program that's difficult, especially as difficult as it has become in the last couple of years with the extremely low pass rates. So my recommendation to people is like, hey, study more than the 300 hours that they talk about, and that's going to require bigger sacrifices than they talk about. So not only does the CFA charter show that you have to be intellectually strong, but also mentally strong. You have to have a huge amount of determination, grit, to even spend enough time studying to pass all these exams. I've always said that. And for anyone who's struggling with mental health, I would probably recommend they don't get into the program until they've able to sort some of those issues out, because the amount of studying and sacrifice you're going to have to do might only make those issues worse for you, and it could end up not being worth it in the long run. So I just wanted to bring light to an unfortunate and a sad story, because I know that other people have probably felt the same way, and I wanted to share kind of a positive or uplifting message, but a realistic one. There's going to be a little sacrifice. You're going to deal with some of these issues that the author mentioned, especially if you have already in the past. and you could get through them, but it also might end up not being worth it. So you might want to take a serious evaluation of the pros and cons and where you're at in your life and what you need to achieve or want to accomplish and what you're willing to sacrifice to get that. Above all else, I wish the author of this article and anyone else who has dealt with these issues the best of luck, the best wishes. Things will improve if you feel like you're in a hole, and so focus on the positives, focus on the future, and I'm confident that you'll be able to get there. I appreciate you sticking around to the end of this one. Don't forget to like and comment and subscribe. As always, thanks for